Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom. As I was singing to the preschoolers yesterday, getting them in the spirit of Shabbat, I sang the favorite, "There's a dinosaur knocking on my door. Knocking 1, 2, 3, Achad, Shtaim, Shalosh. There's a dinosaur knocking on my door, and he wants to have Shabbat with me." And continuing in that song, the dinosaur, of course, wants to eat the challah. And the kids get very excited about that element of Shabbat. And I didn't have the heart to tell them that next week there would be no soft and golden chalot, only matzahs. Not sure that the dinosaur will show up next Shabbat. One interesting coincidence of the timing between our Parshat today, Tsav, and Passover, is that we have an offering in our Parsha, the mincha, or the grain offering, that was not to be offered to God as chametz, or leaven. Instead, it was to be made unleavened, only as matzah. Now, when I say the word matzah, what is your initial reaction? Cardboard. That's good. You might use words like dry, burnt, stale, tasteless. Others may have more positive associations. I don't want to leave them out. With the joy of the Seder, with maybe matzah pizza. We have a lot of matzah pizza coming up in our schedule. Matzah and cream cheese, that's my favorite, or matzah ball soup, of course. But most of those images require us to add something to the matzah itself not always the most enjoyed by every Jew. And yet, this coming holiday is known in the Torah not really as Passover, but Chag HaMatzot, the festival of matzahs. Passover was only the one-day offering that was an opening act for the 7-day feast of matzot. Despite whatever taste we may have or lack for matzah, God knows we still buy it in bulk. The pallets of matzah at H-E-B, diminishing and then being restocked, testify to the Jews' continued observance of this special holiday. And matzah, for all its detractors, still serves as a central symbol in our Seder. And yet the Torah tells us that matzahs are a product of necessity. Our ancestors simply did not have the time for the dough to rise as they had to flee Egypt quickly. So they baked the dough while it was still flat and called it a day. This story would seem to load onto matzah a stressful taste of fleeing your home to escape to freedom. But the irony is that at our Seders, this bread of necessity, of fleeing quickly to escape danger, is transformed into the ultimate symbol of freedom. Traditionally, when you eat the matzah at the Seder, you're supposed to lean back a little bit to your left to show that you no longer have to be in haste. You're settled, you're comfortable, free to eat for as long as you please. The bread of haste makes that transformation at Passover to the bread of freedom. It maintains its unleavened form, but not because we're running away. Rather, we're remembering how far we've come from that moment of flight. We don't forget the past, we keep it in our memory. But we purposefully eat this symbol in the opposite way that our ancestors did. And this poor man's bread, that has become the bread of freedom, has as its foil, of course, chametz. The Hasidic master, the Maor Einayim, who I've been into recently, mentions that the two words in Hebrew, chametz and matzah, are incredibly similar. They are almost anagrams of one or the other. One with chet mem tzadi, and the other with mem tzadi hey. The letters hey and chet are even very close, both in form, how they're written, and pronunciation, the only difference being just a slight gap between the roof of a hay and its left leg, which is fully closed in a het. He quotes the Gemara in Pesachim that any small amount of chametz in food is forbidden on Passover. However, he rereads this as saying there's only a little bit of difference between chametz and matzah. That little quarter of a line that makes a hey into a chet. In this interpretation, matzah is equated with the very similar word mitzvah, commandment. He imagines that the evil inclination in a person shows them something that should be a commandment, like eating matzah, but then distorts one of the letters slightly and rearranges them to make chametz, the symbol of transgression. In this understanding, matzah becomes a symbol of mitzvot itself, the commandments that God has given us to make ourselves holy. There's a fine line between holiness and sin, between freedom and constraint. Often we can convince ourselves that we're doing the right thing, when instead we may have tricked ourselves into seeing a sin as a mitzvah. In life, it's often easy to convince ourselves that what we're doing is fine, maybe even a mitzvah, when the truth is that we've lost sight of the clear distinction between right and wrong. We've been lured to justify our actions, however unjustifiable they may be. This is a challenge that we all face. On the other hand, a different Hasidic master, the Avodat Yisrael, warns us that the challenge of Pesach is to search for that chametz within our own actions. But if we do not do so, we have no right to seek it out in others. He speaks of people who only ever see fault in others and never in themselves. For those people, on Pesach, they must focus on their own faults and how to repair them before they find them in others. This is why the Mishnah tells us that there's no need to search for chametz in a place you never brought it into. According to the Avodat Yisrael, that is hinting to us not to look for chametz outside of yourself first. Look to the place you certainly brought it into, your own heart and mind. So while it's easy to make fun of matzah, or even to loathe its taste, and look forward to the end of the holiday when we can eat bagels again, matzah symbolizes much more than its taste alone. Matzah reminds us of the difficulties of the past, of speedy migration to escape danger, while being a symbol of our freedom, remembering that experience but also moving forward from it. With that message is balanced a cautionary tale about how fine the line can be between chametz and matzah, between transgression and commandment. If we are not careful, it can be very easy to mistake a wrong action for a right one. We must look inside to determine if we have been consuming metaphorical chametz all year long, thinking that it's matzah. And in this process of discernment, we cannot avoid looking at ourselves and the ways we have missed the mark first before scrutinizing others. The Gemara teaches that matzah of the afikomen should be the final thing that we taste on Seder night. I hope that when we eat our first bite and this final bite of matzah, we hold the deep symbolic meaning of it in mind. Our history of being refugees and our insistence on freedom, the ways we fool ourselves into thinking what we're doing is what's right, and the need to understand the changes we must make ourselves before jumping to fix others. And despite your taste preference, may your matzah nonetheless be delicious. Shabbat shalom. Chag sameach.